Genesis chapter 41. 2 full years later, Pharaoh had a disturbing dream. He was standing on the bank of the Nile when 7 fat and healthy cows came out of the river and started grazing on the grass. Then 7 more cows that were sickly and thin came out of the Nile and walked up to the healthy cows already on the riverbank. Then the sickly, thin cows ate all the 7 of the fat, healthy cows, and then Pharaoh woke up. He fell back asleep and had a second disturbing dream. This time he saw 7 heads of grain that were full, ripe, and healthy, growing from a single stalk. Then 7 other heads of grain sprouted up, but these were withered and thin, burnt by the hot east wind. The withered heads of grain ate all the healthy, full heads, consuming them completely. Pharaoh awoke with a start, and then realized it was only a dream. But the dreams troubled Pharaoh, and the next morning he sent for all the wise men and magicians of Egypt. He told them his dreams, but there was no one who could tell him what they meant. Then the royal cup-bearer said to Pharaoh, "These events have reminded me of something I have failed to tell you, something I should have done long ago. Once, Pharaoh was angry with his servants and put me and the royal baker in the prison house of Potiphar, the captain of the guard. While there, each of us had a troubling dream on the same night, and each dream had its own specific meaning. In the prison with us was a young Hebrew, a servant of Potiphar. We told our dreams to him, and he interpreted them, giving each dream a clear interpretation of its own. And events turned out exactly as he said they would for each of us. I was restored to my position, and the royal baker was executed." Hopeful, Pharaoh sent for Joseph. He was quickly taken from the prison, bathed, shaved, and given a clean set of clothing, and then he was brought before Pharaoh. Pharaoh said to Joseph, "I had a disturbing dream that none of my wise men can interpret, but I have been told that you are able to accurately interpret the meaning of dreams." Joseph humbly replied, "I do not possess the ability to discern dreams, but my God can give Pharaoh the answers he desires." So Pharaoh told Joseph, "In my dream, I was standing on the bank of the Nile when 7 fat and healthy cows came out of the river and started grazing on the grass. Then, after them, 7 more cows that were sickly and thin came out of the Nile. I had never seen such sickly and ugly cows in all of Egypt. The sick and ugly cows ate all the 7 of the fat, healthy cows that came up first. But even after they ate them, no one could tell, because they remained just as thin, sick and ugly as before. Then I woke up. I had a second dream, and this time I saw 7 heads of grain that were full, ripe, and healthy, growing from a single stalk. Then 7 other heads of grain sprouted up, but these were withered and thin, and burnt by the hot east wind. The withered heads of grain ate all the healthy, full heads, consuming them completely. I told all of this to the magicians and wise men, but none of them can explain to me what it means." Then Joseph said to Pharaoh, "Both of Pharaoh's dreams mean the very same thing. God has revealed to Pharaoh what is about to happen. The 7 good cows and the 7 good heads of grain both represent 7 years of bounty. Both dreams represent the same time period. The 7 sick, ugly cows and the 7 withered heads of grain that came up afterward both represent the 7 subsequent years, which will be 7 years of famine. It will be just as I have told Pharaoh, for God has shown Pharaoh what is about to happen. The next 7 years will be years of great abundance, with bountiful harvests throughout all of Egypt. But 7 years of severe famine will immediately follow. The famine will be so devastating throughout the land that all the abundance in Egypt will be forgotten. The famine will be so severe that even the memory of the bountiful years will be erased. The reason God has given Pharaoh the dream in 2 forms is because the events are certain to occur and to transpire very soon. And God has warned Pharaoh so that he may prepare Egypt to save people. So let Pharaoh search for a wise and discerning man and put him in charge of the land of Egypt. Let Pharaoh appoint regional agents throughout the land to collect 1/5 of the harvest of Egypt during the 7 years of abundance. They should gather all this food during the good years that are coming and store it under Pharaoh's authority in the cities for future use. This food should be held under guard as a reserve for the country, to be used during the 7 years of famine that is coming upon Egypt, so that the country will not be destroyed by the famine. Pharaoh and all of his officials thought that Joseph's plan was wise. So Pharaoh asked his counselors, "Can we find anyone as qualified as Joseph, someone with such wisdom and upon whom the Spirit of God is present?" Pharaoh said to Joseph, "Since God is with you and has revealed all of this to you, it is obvious that there is no one with more discernment or wisdom than you. So you shall be my governor in charge of Egypt, my house and all my people. All are to submit to your orders. Only I, Pharaoh, will have greater authority in Egypt than you." So Pharaoh said to Joseph, "I hereby appoint you my governor, and place you in charge over the entire land of Egypt." Then Pharaoh removed his ring with the royal seal from his own finger, and put it on Joseph's finger. He dressed him in fine clothes, appropriate to his station, and put a gold chain around his neck, designating his office. He had Joseph ride in the chariot of his second in command, and had heralds shout before him, "Pay homage to Pharaoh's governor." Thus Joseph was put in charge of the entire land of Egypt. Then Pharaoh said to Joseph, "I am Pharaoh, and I decree that no one in the land of Egypt shall act, not even to lift their hand or foot, without your permission." Pharaoh gave Joseph the Egyptian name Zaphenath-Paneah. Pharaoh also gave Joseph Asenath, daughter of Potipherah, priest of On, to be his wife. And Joseph oversaw the entire land of Egypt. Joseph was 30 years old when he was appointed governor by Pharaoh, king of Egypt. After being appointed governor, Joseph travelled throughout Egypt inspecting the land. During the 7 years of abundance, the land produced bountiful harvests. Joseph collected from the abundant harvests in Egypt all the food designated as a reserve and stored it in the cities. In each city he stored the grain grown in the fields of that region. Joseph stored such huge quantities of grain that he stopped keeping records, because it was beyond counting. It was like the sand of the sea. During the good years before the famine came, Joseph had 2 sons by his wife Asenath, daughter of Potipherah, priest of On. When his firstborn son was born, Joseph said, "Because God has made me forget my trouble and my longing for my father's home, I will name my son Manasseh." His second son he named Ephraim, saying, "God has made me fruitful in the land of my suffering." The 7 years of abundance in the land of Egypt came to an end, and 7 years of famine began, just as Joseph had said. The famine struck all the surrounding lands as well, but throughout the land of Egypt there was food. And when all of Egypt began to suffer under the effects of the famine, the people cried out to Pharaoh for food, and Pharaoh told the people of Egypt, "Go to Joseph and do whatever he tells you." As the famine spread throughout the entire region, Joseph opened the storehouses and sold grain to the Egyptians, for the famine was severe in Egypt. And all the surrounding countries came to Egypt to buy grain from Joseph, because the famine was severe everywhere.